Okay, so if you're just joining us, this is Digital Conversation, and we have Edewor here, and she's going to be giving us answers to all your questions. She's going to tell us how she started in the content business. So thank you so much, Miss Edirin. Thank you so much for coming on this conversation. I am particularly happy to have you here. When I heard I was one that's going to be interviewing you, I was like, woo, this is great. And I was so excited.
Thank you for having me.
So give us a brief. How did you start your journey into content? You didn't just become an Amazon bestseller overnight. I know there was the Edirin people don't know and the Edirin we all know now. So
It actually started in 2016. Quite not quite as glamorous as some people may think. I actually started my foray into publishing the very first time. Started because I just needed something to distract myself from what was happening at the time. It was 2016. I was 25 years old at the time, and I had just gotten diagnosed of early onset rheumatoid arthritis at 25. It was not funny at all. It wasn't exactly the nicest way to actually start a career, but I was told a lot of things by the doctors. Oh, you won't be able to use your hands much. You have to stop working out with weights. No more going to the gym. No more wearing high heels. No more carrying heavy buckets and so on and so forth.
wow.
I know how we are in Nigeria. Then we have to carry buckets. So it was, my hands were in casts. Many times I couldn't hold a pen to even write. So it was quite an interesting time, and anyone would definitely want to slip into depression and be sad. And as somebody who has dealt with depression before, just 5 years prior, I did not want to have to go back there again. So I just needed a distraction. I was in a Facebook group that was a community of women, about 70,000 women. So I would just share my my struggles with them, and someone was like, "Oh, why don't you just do something to distract yourself?" I was like, "Okay, what could I do?" I've always been a writer. When I was in uni, I used to write short stories and poetry, but I did not feel like writing any stories at the time. So someone was like, "Okay, write something you know." I was the founder of an interior design business at the time, and I also had a jewelry business, both of which I had to stop because of the illness. But I always worked from home. So someone was like, "Okay, so what do you do very well?" I go, "Well, I know how to work. I'm a very hard worker. I have a very good work ethic. I've never worked in a job. That's a different story for another day, because I couldn't get a job. 502 applications, not a single job offer. So my life has always been business. Yes. So my life has always been business. It is, but it shows you how tenacious I can be, trying to get something. But at the point, I just had to advise myself, maybe this employment thing is not for you. Maybe the Lord is speaking to you or something. So at least I learned to start taking the businesses I had seriously. And, so I knew how to be productive working from home. So someone like, "Why don't you write about that?" So I did. And in 4 days, I was done, because I was like, I didn't know much else to write. I didn't really understand the whole process of book publishing and like that. So I had to take a course. I now learned that I could actually self-publish my book. I could be on a platform like Amazon. I could do it myself, and it did not have to follow what people thought traditional way of writing was. So that my very first book was only 19 pages long, and it had no chapters. Yes, and it had no chapters. Yes. So I wrote and I published it, and
sorry to cut you short. What was the title of the book?
The book was titled The Productivity Checklist, 21 Ways to Getting More Done. Basically, I just listed 21 tips of how I stay productive working from home. Little do we know that 5 years later, most people will have to be working from home, and that book proved very useful last year for a lot of people. Exactly. So that was my first foray, and the book became an accidental bestseller because I had that huge community behind me, who had always encouraged me, and in 3 days had 200 copies that were sold on Amazon. So it became a bestseller. So when I realized I couldn't do the business that I was doing before, my interior design business, because those things required manual work, and I couldn't really do them because of the challenges I was facing at the time. I started to learn from the same Facebook groups that I belonged to at the time, about how you can actually do business,
Okay.
teaching people what you know. So 7 months after I wrote my very first book, I wrote a second one, which was called The A to Z of ebook publishing. At that time, between that 7 month period, I had learned the business. I had understood what content creation, content marketing, publishing could do for a person and could do for a brand. So I used that, my second book I published, to establish my brand. And, it's been almost 4 years now. And that's just basically the best way to tell you how I started in. I just started with book publishing, and then I published a book, wrote, sold the hell out of it, pardon my language. And then as people started to ask questions concerning the book and the work, I started to create more valuable content, many of them free, some of them paid, and it's helped to build the level of influence and income and impact that I have today.
If I want to become an Amazon bestseller, what should my creative thought process be when I am writing my book? When I'm coming up with contents or ideas for my book, what should my creative um, process be like? Look like? What should it look like?
So the first thing you want to do is, first of all, understand that if you're publishing on a platform like Amazon, know that you are writing for a global community. You're not just writing for Nigerians anymore, or Africans anymore. You're writing content that people all over the world will read. So even simple things like talking about how much you earn, you want to use things like the global standard of currency, which everybody can relate to and everybody can immediately do an exchange in their head, even to their whatever currency, which is basically writing in dollars. So you want to write a book, for example, on how to make money from the internet. You're not going to be using words like, oh, you can now peg it at 300,000 naira. No, you're going to use the dollar equivalent. So that's one example, writing for the global audience. Another thing is understanding exactly who those audiences are, because many times we don't realize that there is a bit of a disconnect between the first world countries' thought processes and the third world countries' thought processes. Most people who will buy books on Amazon are mostly from the first world. So when you're writing content for them, you have to write content that they can connect with. So which means you as a person, you need to be able to have that same level of exposure. You need to be able to expose yourself to first world content, to first world thinking and thought process and philosophies. You want to be very, let me use the word PC, politically correct when you are creating work, because you could, with the whole cancel culture happening nowadays, you could easily get cancelled by somebody you've never ever heard of before, simply because of the things that you say in your book. You can get away with a lot of things in Nigeria when you say them. But
Sure.
when you are putting out content and you know that this book that you're going to put on a global platform would attract attention from the global audience to you, you have to learn to start polishing and refining your brand, refining yourself, the things you say, the things that you do, so that you become a reflection of a global brand rather than just a brand that is only, for within your space. So that's one of the most important things that you need to do when you want to create content for the global market and put it on platforms like Amazon.
So my next question is this. So everything you have said now, it looks, I'm just thinking about from a perspective of someone that I've never, let's say I don't know anything about the internet. I just got to find out that I can actually make money from writing books on the internet. And you're telling me about, okay, I need to put my brand, how it's going to be appealing to the international world. I'm already scared. Like, this is too much work for me. So, okay, so how can I put in simple terms? How can I just put out a book today and tomorrow I'm able to sell it? And I don't have
Awesome.
all
So first of all,
and the knowledge that you already have. I'm just an
first
amateur.
of all,
Just put out something.
there's really nothing to be scared of when it comes to the internet and online space. I mean, 2020 has taught us that anybody can adapt. We see people who couldn't go and visit their parents in the village now teaching parents how to use WhatsApp video calls to be able to communicate. We've done more video calls in the past 1 year than we've ever done in the past 10 years combined.
Sure.
Everything is going online. So we cannot afford to see the internet as something to be scared of, but to see it as something that we have to use. Let's go back to maybe 20 years or so in the past, when many of us in the third world countries started to get introduced to the concept of a GSM, a
Yeah.
phone that you could actually make calls and walk around with, and it's not tethered to a device that is connected to some wire that is connected to the wall or something. We could pick a device like this and go around and make phone calls. It wasn't as fantastical as what we are using today, but it was an amazing thing for us at the time. I mean, you could actually pick up a device. Many people hadn't even seen or even used a telephone before. When I say telephone, the ones with wires, especially the kids growing up, millennials especially, we hadn't used those things. Many of us didn't have that. Many of us didn't have that in our homes. We only saw those in like offices. So communication for us then was you go and meet the person that you want to communicate with and talk to them, or you write a letter. But imagine that someone is now telling you that you could actually pick up a device, press a couple of buttons, and you could speak to someone all across an ocean in the other side of the world, and they could hear you, and you didn't have to scream. Many of our parents don't get that right now because you feel like you still have to shout for them to hear you in Ibadan. But eventually we adapted. We learned how to use the GSM. We learned how to send a text message. We have to use those alphanumeric keyboards at the time. If you want to press COM, you have to press ABC. You have to press the one key like 3 times to press the C.
I remember.
And then we evolved and we started having those Java phones that could allow us to play games on the phones. Then we started to have those phones that we could have MP3 and we have always evolved. So look at the internet as something that enables you to evolve in the functionality of everyday life. Now you cannot imagine yourself without a phone. If something happens to your phone, you must do something to get it done. It's become a necessity. And that is how the internet itself has become a necessity now. So we have to understand that this is not something that you can either choose to learn or not learn. I mean, the phrase "I'm not techie" has to be faded from our dictionary. Imagine somebody coming to tell you that I don't know how to use a cell phone. You look at them like, what's wrong with you? Yeah. Exactly. So we are living in that day and age right now where you don't have a choice. You cannot say that you are not techie anymore. It's a part of your life right now. There's nothing you can do about it. You wear your tech on your wristwatch. You wear your tech on your ears like this. You wear your tech. Sometimes some even have tech on their shoes. So we have no choice but to adapt to the internet. So when it comes to writing and publishing, it's a simple thing. You simply need to do what you've done whenever you've tried to look for information for something that you cannot find before. Before you have to probably go to a library or meet somebody who knew something to teach you. Now you have the entire information of the whole world in the palm of your fingers, of your hands rather. So it's your prerogative to be able to use it. If you want to write a book, there are so many tools contained in your phone. You don't even need to have a laptop to even write a book. When I wrote my very first book, I did not use a laptop. I used an iPad. I had an iPad at the time, but it was an iPad that I used. Thankfully, it was only 19 pages. But it was an iPad.
Okay, so let me interrupt you there.
Yes.
Was that the book that became the one you wrote with your?
All my books have become bestsellers, so yes. Even the one I wrote with. Yes. I will tell you another even interesting fact. I will tell you another interesting fact. What I did not know then that I know now. I learned that I don't even need to type my book anymore. Even if you have a phone, you don't even, sometimes it can be quite difficult to want to type with these tiny things and type an entire book of, let's say, 15,000 pages. But you could speak your book nowadays. What do you really need to write a book? Number one, you need the manuscripts, the pages of the book itself, which you can actually do on MS Word. You can use your notes on your notes app on your phone to do it. However, if you can easily download something called Google Docs, Google Document, right? Okay. So if you have a Gmail account, you have free access to what we call a Google Drive. A Google Drive you also have what we call a Google Docs. It's basically Google's version of Microsoft Word document. With Google Documents on your phone, and as long as you have the internet active on your phone, you don't even need to worry about not saving your manuscript, because as long as you have an internet, Google Docs always saves your manuscript as you type. Every couple of seconds, it saves. And that's not even the best part about Google Docs. With Google Docs, you can actually dictate your book. So if you're like the person that says, I don't know how to write, I don't know how to put my words into written content, you are in luck. You can easily pick up your Google Docs,
Just
go to the menu, click on Google Dictate. Google Dictate then listens
guy.
to your voice and then translates what you are saying into words. All you need to do is just edit it. You know, we have accents, Nigerians, and it's hard for Google to understand our accents. So sometimes they may not hear what you're trying to say. So you have to at least pay attention so that you can repeat something. And if you want, when you say something like introduction, um, content is influence, full stop. If you say a full stop, it will put a full stop there. It will put a period there. You
Wow.
say there are different types of content that you can create. Example, content via text, comma. It will put a comma there. Content via these commas. As long as you are saying the punctuation words, comma or semicolon, it puts them there. Then you easily just start to go to a new paragraph and you can actually finish an entire book in a day if you use Google Docs. Then all you need to do is to edit it. There is an app called Grammarly. With Grammarly, you can actually put in your text, and Grammarly helps you to correct your grammar with your text. Once you've done that, the next thing is you can easily download that Google Doc as a PDF file. Before you download it, give an extra blank page in the very first page. That is where you will put the cover of the book. Go to an app called Canva, Canva. Canva is an app that has free and paid versions. With the free version, you can actually create a book cover. You don't have to be a graphic designer to use Canva to create a book cover. There are templates for book covers on Canva. All you need to do is choose one that you like, edit the title, edit the subtitle, put your own name, download it, and then go and take that downloaded image you've downloaded from Canva for your book cover and upload it onto the first page of your book on Google Docs. Then when you are saving it, simply click Save to PDF or Save as PDF. And that's it. You have a book. Finish.